The index fund you bought to play it safe might be the riskiest thing in your portfolio right now. We need to talk about what's actually inside that thing, because the answer is going to surprise you. The 10 largest companies in the S&P 500 now account for over 40% of the entire index, a level of concentration not seen since the 1960s. Think about that for a second. You bought 500 companies, but roughly 490 of them are basically just along for the ride. 8 of those top 10 companies are directly tied to artificial intelligence, meaning your diversified index fund is essentially a concentrated bet on one technological theme, delivering on every single one of its promises. That's not a safety net, that's a high wire act with a very expensive ticket price. And then there's NVIDIA, sitting at nearly 8% of the entire index all by itself, which means one chip company's earnings call has more influence over your retirement account than the entire energy sector combined. One disappointing quarter from Jensen Huang, and suddenly your boring index fund is anything but boring. What used to represent the full breadth of the American economy, banks, manufacturers, retailers, utilities, has quietly shifted into a narrow wager on whether AI delivers the productivity revolution everyone is pricing in. The S&P 500 used to look like a cross-section of Main Street. Now it looks more like a Silicon Valley pitch deck. Here's where the irony really stings. The whole promise of passive investing was that you wouldn't have to think too hard. You'd own everything and the market would do its thing over time. But when 40% of your everything is concentrated in a handful of names, you're not really passive anymore. You're just a momentum investor in denial. History actually has a lot to say about moments like this one, and none of it is particularly gentle. We saw extreme concentration in the Nifty 50 of the 1970s, in the dot-com bubble of 2000, and in the financial sector right before 2008. And in each case, the unwinding was faster and more painful than almost anyone expected. The psychological trap here is that the recent performance of these AI-linked giants has felt so convincing, so inevitable, that questioning it feels almost foolish. But that feeling of inevitability, that of course this keeps going up sensation, is historically one of the most reliable warning signs we have. A common misconception is that because index funds hold hundreds of companies, the risk is automatically spread out in a meaningful way. The reality is that market cap weighting means you own more of what has already gone up the most, which is the exact opposite of buying low and selling high. So what do you actually do with this information? The practical answer isn't to panic sell your index funds and hide in a mattress. It's to audit your real exposure, consider equal weight alternatives, and make sure your overall portfolio isn't doubling down on the same concentrated theme through other holdings like tech-heavy 401k options. The disciplined investor doesn't ask, is AI gonna win? They ask, how much of my outcome depends on that single question being answered correctly? Position, sizing, and process matter infinitely more than conviction, and that principle has never once gone out of style across any market cycle in history. There's actually something philosophically clarifying about moments like this, because they force you to get honest about what you own and why you own it. The investors who will look back on this period calmly are not the ones who predicted the outcome correctly. They're the ones who sized their risk appropriately, regardless of the outcome. Whether AI delivers everything it promises or disappoints at some point along the way, a well-structured, honestly assessed portfolio can handle either scenario with dignity. Preparation and rationality are always the move, not prediction, not panic, and definitely not pretending your index fund is something it isn't right now. The market has a long history of humbling both the bears who saw disaster everywhere and the bulls who thought the scoreboard would never reset, and we are all just trying to play the game thoughtfully in the middle of that truth. Concentration risk is real, it's measurable, and ignoring it because your fund has 500 in the name is a kind of assumption that tends to get very expensive very fast. If you want help thinking through your actual exposure, building a smarter strategy, or even taking steps like real estate investing to diversify outside the market entirely, check out our links in the description below. We can help you get started.